Oh, because we're happy now with the straightness of the neck. We've done enough truss roddy adjusting.
Yeah, I think maybe we've got it too straight on the bass side, but we'll see in a minute.
Okay.
And
you don't do any of this by like looking down at like this.
Yeah,
you can't
can do
tell.
that. Yeah, you can do that, but I think it's a case of, you know, people say, well, what am I looking at? You know, if it looks like, you know, if it looks like a bow and arrow, then you know, there's loads of relief in the neck. You'll be able to tell. But what you're kind of using the science, if you like, of the string up to tension, being straight as a reference point against whatever the neck and the frets are doing. So you take out some of the guesswork, if you like. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll drop these down.
Okay, so we're just using an Allen key. Again, are they always the same Allen key for this?
On a, you know, a starter electric guitar like this in a Fender style, they're gonna be 1.5 mil, you know, 99 times out of 100.
Okay.
And the other thing that you can kind of bear in mind is also there's a camber on
the neck radius.
The neck radius. This is flatter than a vintage Fender, but the way, again, going back to what we were saying earlier about how guitars are put together, you know, this literally is kind of bolted together and then you know, very minimal kind of setup, if any at all, and that you can see in the way that the saddles are configured, because the saddles don't match
the radius of the
radius on there. They've just been kind of set flat. They have made a bit of an effort with the intonation, but they're pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
So
you're now going to lower them down.
I'm going to lower them down.
Okay, I'll do a little video of this as well so they can see what's going on.
So kind of to lower them down, again, you're going anti-clockwise.
Okie dokie.
And what I suggest you do is you can just measure as we go. I think.
And we're aiming for.
Well, I don't think we'll get 50 out of this. We'll aim for kind of 60.
60 meaning
60,000.
60,000
at the 12th fret.
Okay.
And then it'll probably be a little bit more than that on the.
And by doing it this way for each string, you're going to do it for each string, right? The same height for each string.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
But if you do that, that will automatically give you that nice kind of little bit more of radiused heights in the bridge, right?
Yes, it does. If you've got a tighter camber on the neck, then you might end up, if the camber is kind of like this, then from the high E to the bass side, you're probably going to be slightly higher on the high E than you would think you might be on the G and the D, and then higher again on the low E. So again, it won't really match the camber.
Okay.
You can make it so it does match the camber, but what you do then really is to accommodate the high E on the tight camber, you give away a bit of action on the G and D on the middle. You make them higher than they need to be. So it's a bit of that's a bit down to experience and in setting things up. But I guess at the outset, if you can match the camber. If you match the camber to the radius, you won't go far wrong. You might find that you need to have the bass strings a tiny bit higher.
Looks a bit fiddly.
It's not too bad. You can get screwdriver versions of these that have like a screwdriver handle. That
makes it a bit quicker.
That's a big one.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's quite good if you're sighting down it like I am at the moment. You can kind of see what you're doing and see the relative heights.
Yeah. You're kind of giving them 1.5 turns.
Yeah.
Looks like roughly. And you're going to have to tune up again now, right? Because each time you're adjusting those things.
Yeah, I'm going to take the cap off as well. I'll pop it back on in a minute. Because as you drop the saddle down, the string tension drops and the note drops.
Yeah. And therefore not as much tension on the neck, which will change the amount of bowing and all of that. Marginal.
Yeah, I think we can say at this point that's marginal. I think that's.
It's dropped a semitone-ish though, right?
Yeah, I think it was. They all made jumpy noises, so it's possible that if the metal is soft, the strings can kind of bed into the actual plating, and then they really will jump.
Yeah,
I think one of those might have been that. Okay, so
cool.
Let's pop this back on because.
And just to remind people that the idea with the capo is that we're removing any worry about the height of the neck, so that we can adjust this stuff perfectly, and then we can adjust the nut afterwards.
Okay, so we got kind of 60 to 70, 60 to 70, about 70, about 70, 70, and 80s. We'll just try and get it down a bit more, see if it plays ball.
It's funny. This is one of those things that I've never learned to do a proper setup, so this is good for me as well. You know, I tweak things a bit, but I guess because I want it done really well, I'd rather take it to you and have you do you'll do a much better job than I would, unless I practice doing it for a long time. You know. And while you should do this at home if you're a complete beginner, don't be afraid of doing it. I would say that if you live in London, taking to get Charlie to do it might cost you a bit, but you'll get a much nicer guitar back. Remember you did you probably don't remember, you did a Gibson Hummingbird acoustic for me long time ago, and it was a horrible pig of a thing when I bought it to you, and when I got it back I couldn't believe what a difference it was. It was one of the nicest guitars I had that played. It was like, wow,
good.
How did he do that? Anyway, how is it?
Yeah, that feels better. Yeah, it's definitely better, and it's actually for a cheaper guitar. It's actually not bad, because quite often what will happen if the actions are more high, you know, here and here, then if you fret and bend strings, particularly higher up the neck, then you get the point where any irregularities in the fret height are really highlighted, and the strings choke out. So you go beep, beep, beep as you go across. But this is alright. So even at that 60,000, so we might almost try, see if we can get down a tiny bit more.
So you're now doing like a bit over a quarter of a tone, it looks like.
Yeah, I think, and just on the top three maybe. One thing to point out, this guitar, although it's got a tremolo, it's not set up for trem use, and it isn't floating.
It's screwed right in. Yeah.
It's screwed right down flat, which is probably a good idea for a beginner's guitar.
Exactly.
And for an inexpensive guitar, because tremolos can be a bit of a nightmare on if the metal is cheap or the wood is cheap or whatever.
Yeah.
But my point, I guess, is that if it were floating, then it's a very dynamic relationship between the string tension and the springs
underneath it. I'm just thinking if I've got a guitar that's got the strings out already. So here we go. Yeah. So look. If it's not, I have all of mine locked out as well. So I have the two outside springs angled in, which gives them a bit more tension. I screw these right in, which will in effect lock this right up against the wood, and no matter how tightly I pull the strings, it's not going to pull around with the bridge at all. That's how I've set them. Pretty much all of my Strat type guitars have got that. So, and you do that just by undoing those. That's got a plate on the back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you just undo these six. Most people don't leave the plate on, by the way. I don't know. I guess it's to stop your belt rattling on the strings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, or maybe just for the aesthetics, but
it's Van Halen.
Not many people. Yeah, playing on them.
Scrape the springs.
Makes a cool noise if you're plugged in and you scrape them. Okay.